Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're building a digital fortress. We're going to peel back the layers one by one to see how an operating system like Windows defends itself when one of its own apps goes rogue. Sounds like something straight out of a spy flick, right? But this is a very real threat. Attackers have figured out a really clever way to turn a program's own code against itself, and it's one of their favorite techniques. And this is the really clever and kind of scary part. Attackers don't need to smuggle their own weapons into your system. They just find the tools that are already lying around inside a trusted program and piece them together to build something malicious. It's the ultimate attack from within. So how in the world do you build a fortress to stop that? Well, our first layer of defense isn't some big static wall. Instead, it's designed to be a constantly moving target, making it incredibly difficult for an attacker to even get their bearings. You see, the whole fortress is built on a few foundational rules. We're looking at three really key policies here: data execution prevention, address space layout randomization, and arbitrary code guard. Together, these make it unbelievably hard for an attacker to even figure out where to start. Let's break this down. Before something like ASLR, an attacker knew the castle's main gate was always at the same spot. It was a fixed target. Easy. But with ASLR, every single time the system boots up, Windows basically rebuilds the castle and shuffles where the gates and towers are. The attacker is totally left guessing. And then there's this next rule: data execution prevention, or DEP. It's super simple, but incredibly powerful. It draws a hard line. Areas for data are just for data, and areas for code are just for code. So even if an attacker manages to smuggle a malicious piece of data into the fortress, DEP makes sure they can't actually execute it. It just sits there completely inert. Okay, but what happens if an attacker is clever enough to get past those shifting outer walls? Well, let's move to our next layer and see how we actively police what's going on inside the fortress. You see, programs often make what are called indirect calls, where the exact destination isn't known until the very last second. And attackers absolutely love this. That little moment of uncertainty is their opening to try and divert a perfectly legitimate journey over to their own malicious code. And that's exactly where our vigilant gatekeeper steps in: Control Flow Guard. The solution, Control Flow Guard, basically acts like a security guard with a pre-approved guest list. When a program is built, CFG creates a secure map of every single valid destination. Then, right before the program makes that turn, CFG steps in and asks, "Hey, is your destination on my list?" And if the destination is not on that approved list, boom, the journey is stopped dead in its tracks. The gatekeeper just terminates the process nice and safe, preventing any damage before it even has a chance to start. So now, we're heading into the most protected part of our fortress, the kernel. This is the absolute core of the operating system, and protecting it is completely non-negotiable, because if the kernel falls, the whole system goes down with it. To protect this inner sanctum, Windows has this final, uncompromising defense called Kernel Patch Protection, or Patch Guard. And its rules are so strict that even the system's own administrators are flat out forbidden from making unauthorized changes to the kernel's most important structures. Patch Guard basically stands watch over the kernel's crown jewels. I'm talking about these critical tables and data structures that manage literally everything. Its one and only job is to just periodically check them for any sign of tampering. Now, this Patch Guard does detect that something has been messed with. It doesn't try to fight back or repair the damage. Instead, to prevent a compromise at all costs, it goes for a scorched earth defense. By triggering this, a bug check, you probably know it as the blue screen of death. And this gets right to the heart of the security philosophy at this level. A controlled crash is infinitely better than a quiet compromise. PatchGuard would rather bring the entire fortress down itself than risk letting an attacker take over the throne room. So look, all this talk about fortresses and gatekeepers, it's not just theoretical. These are real, configurable policies that you can actually see running on your own system. This table really sums up the layers we've built. We've got DEP stopping data from running, ASLR hiding our targets, and CFG validating every single turn. And you can see ACG here too, Arbitrary Code Guard, which stops a program from just creating new executable code out of thin air. Each policy is another layer, another wall. It's the definition of defense in depth. So after our grand tour of this digital fortress, what's the most important thing to remember? It's that modern security is so much more than just building a higher wall. It's a living, breathing system that's designed to confuse the enemy, to check credentials at every single door, and to have an unbreakable, last resort plan to protect the crown jewels. And that, of course, leaves us with a pretty big question. Because for every new defense that gets built, attackers just get more creative. It's this constant evolving battle for control, an endless siege, with the security of our entire digital lives hanging right there in the balance.
If you want to help me out, please smash that like button, leave a random comment, and subscribe if you want to become a better hacker.